What's up, guys? It's Avery Carl from the Short Term Show doing the intro for the Panhandle of Florida. We are doing a 10-episode deep dive on two markets here, both the Emerald Coast and the Forgotten Coasts of Florida, which basically makes up the entire Florida Panhandle. So 10-episode deep dive here. We are going to add quarterly updates, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. We also have some supplemental materials for you guys on our website. So anything you need to know about current short-term rental property pricing in terms of how much it costs to buy a property in these markets, you can find that on our website at theshorttermshop.com. You can also find current AirDNA income data thanks to our friends over at, you guessed it, AirDNA. And we've got all that for you guys so that you can listen to this at any point in time and go find live pricing and live income data. Also, if you guys want to buy a short-term rental investment with a short-term shop agent on the Emerald or Forgotten Coast, you can just email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we will get you hooked up. These are two of my very favorite beach markets, by the way. I've chosen to live in the Emerald Coast. I also invest in the Emerald and Forgotten Coast, so very near and dear to my heart. Also, if you guys just have more questions and you want to chat about short-term rentals, we've created an amazing community over on Facebook with over 50,000 short-term rental investors just talking shop all day. It's got the same title as my book. It's called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. So head over there to chat more about short-term rentals. And if you want to chat live on Zoom, we've got a call every Thursday that you can join at STR-questions.com. Happy investing, y'all. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Short Term Show's special episode series on the Emerald and Forgotten Coasts. So we've already done an episode that you heard last week on the income numbers and how to look at what properties are making. So now we're going to do part 2 of that, of the analysis series, and talk about the expenses that are common in this market. So I have an awesome panel here to help me do that. Some familiar faces and some that will be new to you. We'll start with January Johnson. January, introduce yourself really quick.
Hi there, January Johnson. I'm a Panama City native, returned here after a long time away. I have 4 short-term rental properties, and I cover from Panama City Beach to basically Navarre Beach, part of the Emerald Coast, in sales.
Thank you, Jan. Next, we have Austin Lewis. Austin, you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Yeah. Hey, guys. Super happy to be here with y'all. I am a Pensacola-born native. I cover from the Alabama state line, so Perdido Key, and then all the way over to Fort Walton Beach, so Pensacola Beach and Navarre Beach, which are in between.
Awesome. And next, we have a couple investors. First, we have Aaron Gardner. Aaron, you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Avery. So Aaron Gardner, I live in Minnesota. The only reason for that is that's where my employer is. We've got 2 short-term rentals and various other long-term rentals in the portfolio. So one in the Emerald Coast in Santa Rosa Beach and the other in Sevierville.
Thank you very much. And Patrick Andres.
Hey, I'm Patrick Andres, Alabama native. I have 2 short-term rentals in Panama City Beach on the east side of Panama City Beach. Both are houses.
Sweet. So I've got them. I got one in Destin, one in 30A, and one on Cape San Blas. So we've got owners covering the entire market as well as agents covering the entire market. So let's talk about the common expenses for these things. So we're just going to kind of start at the beginning at the most basic and move through to the things that are a little more specific to our areas, just so our listeners have a good idea of what it costs to own a place in any of these markets. So let's start at the beginning, which I think is probably utilities. So what are your typical utilities looking like? Let's start with electric around here.
I normally tell people for rough math around $60 per 500 square foot. So, and of course, there's definitely going to be months where it's higher and months where it's lower. It's just an average across the board.
Yeah, I don't have anything too specific on electric other than most of the houses here have been built in the past 25 years. So you're not looking at a whole lot of like 50s or 60s builds that might have some reasons why they're not as energy efficient. So I would say, I always just tell people that it's as if you were going to live in the house, run the utilities that way. But Jan, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it depends on the type of property. Obviously, a condo is going to be different than a single family home, but I mean, I would say $150 to $200 as a good average for an electric bill. And, yeah, I don't really think about it in terms of square foot. That's interesting to think about, but yeah, 150 to 200 average.
So FPL charges 11 cents per kilowatt hour. The reason I know this is I just added solar to one of my properties. And so that property is now going to be paying me money to pay for the solar. The other one is a 4,000 square foot house. During the summer months, it'll run $560 a month.
Yeah, that's about what our 3,500 square foot is. It's in the mid 400s, which is a 4-bedroom. So electric's pretty typical, for anywhere. Let's talk about water. So sometimes we have pools, sometimes we don't have pools. Our water bills are typically, if we haven't had to fill the pool, under $50 a month for our 4-bedroom in Destin. Anybody else have anything too crazy?
No, we've got a 3-bedroom. It's about 1,600 square feet, and we're running in the $50 a month neighborhood on water. So nothing really shocking, I would say.
I'm running $97 each month at both properties in Panama City Beach. One has a pool, one doesn't.
Yeah, no pool on mine.
Okay. Yeah. So pretty standard water bills. Pretty much everything around here, guys, is going to be in the entire panhandle is going to be on municipal water of some sort. We don't see many wells at all. Where I do see wells is typically for sprinkler systems. Like we're on municipal water, but our sprinkler is on a well. But it's typically not something that that's going to be supplying the actual house with water. So I wouldn't worry about that.
You're not going to pay water if you're in a condo. That's part of your HOA.
Yeah.
Good.
Same with gas. We don't really have a lot of gas around here. We get asked that about, from northern clients, but very rarely have any properties with gas.
Yeah, I would say pretty much all the properties are going to be, a combined HVAC unit, central heat pump, which means if it happens to get really, really cold, which it rarely does, you might have a little problem keeping up with the heat, but typically doesn't happen too much around here. But yeah, it'll be all electric heat. There won't be any gas heat. We will see some gas appliances in other markets that we're in. There are no gas appliances, but we'll see some here, and but just not as many. I think a lot of people prefer if they're building a house specifically to be a rental. It's easier to clean an electric one. You don't have to worry about guests not being able to figure out how to turn the fire on the stove right and blowing the house up. So, but there is some gas, I would say, like 50-50. All right. Internet. What's the typical internet service provider around here? I mean, I think we're paying like $150 a month at our 4-bedroom because we stopped doing the cable. Do you guys do cable or you do it streaming only?
We do the streaming.
Just streaming, no cable. We got the fastest Wi-Fi we could find, which was a bit of a struggle, honestly. So
yeah, internet companies around here aren't particularly fast or efficient at getting internet installed, but it's all right. And in Walton County, I don't know about Okaloosa and Bay. If there's a lot of people in town, the internet will be kind of slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got 2 different providers at my house. One's Charter, and they're running $94 a month for unlimited. And then I've got WOW at the other house, and for unlimited, they're running $64. Oh
wow.
We also have Xfinity, and depending on where you are, AT&T may serve you, but I don't know. They have some limited service arrangements or service areas. But if you're a condo, you don't pay that.
We have some kind of wacky companies in Walton County. We've got Mediacom is the big provider, and then the other one's called Netcom.
Yeah, we use Mediacom for sure.
All right. So through all the basic stuff. So let's talk about pool expenses. So what does it typically cost to maintain a pool per month in this market if you guys have a pool?
So I've got a pool at one of mine, and I'm paying $150 a month for weekly service on it. And
that's exactly what I tell people to budget. So I'm glad to hear that I'm validated there, because that's about what we pay for our pool property, about $150 a month. And anything else as far as maintenance, like anything crazy happen that you need to address?
Well, I mean, you got some stuff like the pool liner may start leaking, or if it's not a liner, there may be a leak that pops up. The pool lights may have an issue that's popped up before. And my pool guy takes care of it all. He's also a handyman, so he gets in there, he takes care of it for me. So it's not anything too crazy though. It's fairly straightforward. He's there every week and stays on top of it. We did add a pool heater to the property. That way we could increase bookings.
How much extra would you say that pool heater costs you to run a month?
That's why I added solar to that property.
Oh.
So I get a tax break with the solar. It's 30% of the cost of it. Doesn't add value to the property taxes for me. And it's basically paying for all the power at that property now. And I should get a check back from FPL at the end of the year.
Okay, awesome. Our pool heater is gas. So we do have a small gas bill, but gas is pretty affordable. But you don't have to have a pool, but it helps like if you can get a property with a pool, get it, or second best would be an HOA, like a community pool. I do have one property, my place on Cape Sandblast does not have a pool, and it does fine without it. As long as the numbers work without it, that's fine. But we do have a permit to get one put in. We've just been dragging our feet on actually getting that done. I'm sure Patrick's heard all about that from Luke, but
I have. He told me about the process to even get a permit. It was crazy.
Yeah. So get a pool if you can. It's not really that much to maintain, about $150 a month. If not, just make sure the numbers work without.
And I think one point on the pools, we get a lot of requests. We have an HOA pool. It's just a few houses down. It has to be heated because many actually aren't. And we get that request all the time. So it's a big difference between a heated pool and a not heated pool.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point. Ours wasn't heated when we first bought it. And we went through, we were like, oh, it's probably not a big deal. It's like a little bougie or whatever. But then we started getting requests and people would not book us on the kind of shoulder seasons because it wasn't heated. So it made sense to definitely just go ahead and get that done. So Great point.
Around
All
what
right.
was the cost for that, Avery?
I can tell you how much it costs to add a heater. It's about $10,000.
Yeah. And ours was done wrong the first time. And the vendor who put it in did not. In Okaloosa County, they're pretty particular about permits and things. You do have to get a permit to put in a pool heater. And the original vendor didn't get one and told us that he did. And then he did it wrong. And then so we had to have somebody come back and then we had to backtrack because the permit wasn't done. And it was just a mess. But it should have been around 10,000. It ended up being more having to get it done. So it's not a cheap thing to do, but it does pay for itself in a couple of years.
Easily. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about cleaning fees. So what's everybody seeing for cleaning fees across your different size properties?
So I've got 2 properties. One sleeps 16, one sleeps 20. And I'm paying the cleaner $475 for one of the properties, which is a little bit smaller, and $500 for the other. And,
How many bedrooms and bathrooms do you have?
6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and the one I pay $475 for. 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, 2 half baths, and the one I pay $500 for. But it's about 1,200 more square feet to clean.
I showed a property about a week ago, and it was 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and an above ground pool, but it had a deck, and it was nice looking. And the cleaner was there when I was getting video, and I asked her, and she said she charged $425 for that particular house. So that's totally in line with what you're saying to me.
Yes.
Yeah, we're paying between $400 and $500 for our 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms in 38 and Destin, and then it's lower. It's closer to $250 for our 4 bedroom in Cape Sandblast, so a little cheaper over there. Are y'all's? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I was just going to say cleaning's a bit expensive when comparatively speaking to Sevierville for sure. We're at $280 for a 3-2. So yeah, it's much higher than what we were used to, but we just layered in the cost.
The cleaning, you got to have it clean or your health.
Oh yeah.
And you got to pay the good service.
That's right.
I went a long time with some mom and pop operators, which was fine when I had 1 and then 3, and now I have 4. And so a cleaning service that does the linens and all the amenities. I mean, when I started 9 years ago, it was just, I kind of hodgepodged it together, but now you got to have reliable people who have a team and, can give you eyes on the property and be reliable about that. So yeah, it's important.
I think I want to shine a light on that really quick, because a lot of people I'll see on Facebook groups, because I'm a member of like every single short-term rental Facebook group in existence on Facebook. And I'll see a lot of people when they're looking for cleaners saying, I don't want a company, I want a single person, and I want it to be the same person every time. And I just don't think that that is an efficient or, really good at all way to do things, because you're really limiting your cleaner on what they can do for you, but also on their ability to make a living, because cleaners can't make a living on one property. And in the summertime, in the high season, they may have to be turning 4 or 5 properties, maybe more in a day. And if you're saying that it has to be them every time, you're kind of keeping them from being able to make a living. And that's just not the way that things are done. Like, it's totally fine to have a cleaning company and it's a different person every time, because it's the difference between getting it clean by a company that's actually making money and able to provide the service, and then one person who's like doing the best they can, but doesn't have enough time. And then now they're stressed and crunched, and they might not be, they might not do the best job because you're limiting them in that way, and they've got other turns to get to. So I'm not a fan of that.
I do want to say that if you go that route, you need 2 different people. You need 2 different mom and pop people, because if somebody doesn't show up or somebody's sick, what are you going to do? If you don't have a team, then they can't just send in the next, the JV team or whatever, they got to, you're stuck. If it's mom and pop are sick, or they have to vacation, or their car breaks down, you're stuck, and you're going to be cleaning it, or you're going to be doing something else. So.
Yep. And so for the prices you guys are paying, are your cleaners providing the consumables like paper products and things like that? Or are you Amazoning to them?
My cleaner supplies the toilet paper and the paper products. We do supply through Costco. We am Costco down to her, like laundry, detergent, dishwasher detergent, stuff like that. Because a lot of guests, if they're in these bigger properties, they're paying a little bit more. They want to not have these little pods there. And I just wait till everything goes on sale at Costco, and I buy a bunch and send it down to her. So,
what are you doing, Jan?
My cleaner, I just switched over to the actual service that cleans my personal home. All my properties are in the same town that I live in, so that's a little bit different, but same thing. They have a short-term rental arm of their business, and so my cleaner brings the little soaps, shampoos, conditioner, and garbage bags, dishwasher pods, and laundry pods, all of those things. Traditionally, I have supplied those things and just kept them in an owner's closet, and the housekeeper would put those out. I do also provide body wash and shampoo, but since she started bringing them, it's basically they just have a choice until what I provided runs out. But I've done it both ways.
Yeah, ours supplies everything, like all of the paper products, the pods, and the shampoos and conditioners and things, but we do the linens ourselves. So sheets and towels we do ourselves. So we have control over what the quality of that is. There are some companies that they'll provide the linens for you for an extra charge, but I don't like that. I like to have a little control over what's going in and out, make sure they're decent. So, okay.
Because once they pick up your linens, you're never going to see your linens again.
Right.
They'll bring you equivalent or sort of linens. I even tried it where I had 2 sets of things and they would swap out, but still I have of all my properties and the service doing it all, the wrong sheets went to the wrong house. And finally I just said, you do it.
Yeah. So what's typically included in a clean around here? So are they just cleaning the house? Are they also taking your laundry offsite and washing it? Or is that a separate service? Are they doing any type of pool maintenance, hot tub maintenance? What are you guys getting for your price per clean?
We get the standard clean. They obviously clean the home. They redo all the beds, but they do wash on site. So a little bit different.
They wash on site.
They wash on site, and we supply everything for the property, and then have backups in the owner's closet. It's all done on site.
Oh.
One of my properties has 2 units. It's they're both under the same roof, but they're separate entrances. I have a main house and like a mother-in-law suite. And so 2 years ago, I paid to have my garage plumbed and electrified for 2 washers and 2 dryers so that we could do laundry on site. Because even I used to ask my guests to start a load of laundry, but I just have the housekeepers do it in the closet and that kind of stuff. But it makes it nice if both units are occupied at the same time. Nobody's waiting for a washer, because that's where the washer and dryer are on that property, is in a garage.
Yeah, so my cleaner takes them off site and launders them because there's a lot of times there'll be like blood on the sheets or something like that because somebody's got psoriasis or something like that. And they're just older people that are bleeding on the sheets. They just can't help it. So
Older people just bleed.
well, I mean, like, it's just when they get thin skin, when they get a little bit older, and they scratch in the middle of the night, they don't even know it. There's blood on the sheets. So it's a little tougher to get out. So she takes them to the laundromat, takes care of them that way.
Boils.
Yeah, and makeup too. Like I noticed I've watched myself at the past couple hotels that I've stayed at for conferences. And even if I use a makeup wipe, even if like I wash my face really good, somehow maybe I'm just not good at washing my face, but I will still like on the towel, there will still be a little bit of makeup, even though I try not to. And I know as hosts, we get like completely infuriated by that. And I've noticed like nobody means to do that. Like nobody's like being a jerk and just wiping just for the sake of wiping it on your towels, but it's hard to do. Like even when you like scrub, when you go to wipe your face afterwards with your towel, it gets on there. So now I'm going to get emails about, better procedures for face washing, but it's easier to do than a lot of people think to accidentally do that. So ours definitely she takes them off site too. And I think too, it's just a little more efficient to like, if you've got the clean ones there, we're putting these on, we're taking these old ones away and we're not having to sit here for 3 hours while we do laundry. Cause if you got a bigger property too, it can be more than one or two loads of laundry. So
towels alone will kill you. I mean, beach towels, bath towels, and however many towels you put out is how many towels they're going to use. So if you want to put all your towels out, then you're going to have 3 or 4 loads of towels instead.
Yeah. And then too, if they're trying to cram things into the washing machine so that they're having to do less loads, then the water can't circulate and it will make the laundry still smell. So I prefer offsite.
Yep.
All right. Enough about laundry. Anything else that is included or not included? Anybody have a hot tub in this market? We don't. I see some, mostly you'll see like in-ground ones as part of a pool.
I've got a spa on mine. It's what we tell them it's not a hot tub. So that way they know it's, during the summer months, unless they pay for heat, we're not heating it for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to, if they want to pay for it to be heated, I'll be happy to heat it for them. But, and I can get it up to 100 degrees. It's not a big deal. But most people want to cool down during the summer months. It gets so hot. So.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's really necessary to have a hot tub in these markets because it's hot outside.
Yeah.
Let me just boil myself in this hot tub while it's 102 degrees outside. It doesn't make sense.
A lot of the ones that are being sold with a hot tub are primary owners that they live there,
Yeah.
I love a hot tub. I don't care what season it is.
But now during the spring season and the fall season, they love having that thing heated. So it's, because it gets a little cooler at night. So they love it then. So It's nice having the in-ground spa.
Yeah, I can see that. So typically cleaners aren't really touching the pool, right? Or are they skimming it or anything? Ours doesn't.
No, I've got my pool maintenance where they come out and do the clean on the turnover day. So they take care of that for me on the turnover day.
Cool. And that's about $150 a month. And then you've got your cleaners at like $400 to $500 a clean. All right, cool. So I think anything else related to cleaning expenses that we haven't gone over. So, what they're doing, they're going in, cleaning the whole house. They're taking away or washing the laundry. They're putting new laundry back on, getting everything ready. Nothing too crazy. Like, in other markets, there's some other like specific tasks that need to be done, but not in this one. Anything else before we move on away from cleaning? Patrick, you look like you want to say something.
I'm just going to say, I also have them check the grill to make sure there's propane in the grill. And they do that for me as well. And I have an extra tank so that way they can change it out.
That's smart because myself included, because I don't grill enough to remember to turn off the propane. I just leave it running. Luke one time left the grill on all night. And the propane was connected to like an underground tank. So it was almost, endless. And I looked outside in the morning and saw like the heat waves coming up. But we have had a situation before in another market where a guest left burgers on the grill. Like they didn't leave it on or anything, but the cleaner didn't check. And so the next guest went to use it and there was rotten burgers on the grill. That was pretty gross. So we actually recently went completely grill-less in our beach markets because somebody burned down our fence in Destin. And it's working out so far. We just make sure they know we do not provide a grill. And it hasn't been a big deal so far.
I don't provide anything that I mean, again, I don't have a 6-bedroom, 5-bath house or whatever you said you have, Patrick, but I don't provide things that I have to maintain that aren't going to distinguish me in my little area and be a money maker for me. So I don't want another mouth to feed. I don't want another grill to clean or another appliance to maintain.
Yeah.
And I have had a grill melt a fence for me from a guest. So they melted my PVC fence at my pool property. So
Yep.
I'm right there with you, Avery, on that one. So.
Yeah, and they didn't tell us, and we only knew that it was happening because the neighbor called the fire department.
Gosh.
And I can't believe Luke answered the phone when they called. But yeah, that was fun time. So
I have had several guests ask whether we have a grill there or not. So we do provide it, and I just make sure there's a fire extinguisher right next to it.
Well, ours, so they left it. It wasn't something that happened while they were standing there using it. So it was just like too close to like some pine straw or something and then burned down. I don't exactly know. This is according to the fire department. That's not a call you want to get. All right. So enough about cleaning. Let's talk about maintenance and capex. Is there anything specific that across a lot of you own multiple properties that you're running across in terms of general maintenance or capex? Like, for example, adding a pool heater.
Well, I'm going to say your air conditioning is going to need to be replaced more frequently than some inland location because of salt air. So you just have to build that in. I don't mean like every 5 years or anything, but definitely, where you would think it would be 15 to 20, it's going to be like 10 to 12 or something like that, maybe. So you have to plan for whatever appliances outside are exposed to salt air, because that's going to
makes it rust much faster. That was on my list of points to make. Great job, Jan.
Same with door locks. I've noticed with door locks, they tend to seize up a little bit because of the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the lock on my front door on my office, the outside is, I almost said frozen. The outside is rusted. So I'm too lazy to like just get that taken care of. So I just go through, put the key in the back door of the office because the front lock is rusted and I'm too lazy to get it taken care of.
Yeah, and you're definitely going to want to make sure you get your ACs maintained every year, and just make, because that's going to be and get the coils clean inside and out. It's going to be $500 to get that done if you get the inside and the outside ones done, depending on how many units you have. I know I've got 3 units at one, 2 units at the other. So you just want to make sure you do that. That way, in the middle of the summer, you're not getting a call that the AC's out, hopefully.
Yeah, that I have a service that changes the filters and checks my AC. So they go every month and change the filters. And I mean, I could do that myself, but the 2 reasons that I like it is A, I'm sure it's done monthly, and B, if I need some kind of emergency AC service, I'm at the top of their list because I have this recurring service. So, I can call on a Saturday or a Sunday and get emergency service if needed. But the routine maintenance, I mean, twice I've had AC go out for people. I mean, I have a portable AC unit that I bought at like Sam's Club that's in my garage, and I can take it over. Again, my properties are 2 and 3 bedrooms. So, I have been able to do that, but you don't want that call, man. You don't want that call. Hey, we just checked in and there's no AC. And of course it's, Sunday at noon. It's never going to be Monday at 10 a.m. Yeah.
Yep. Anything else? Rust was my main specific call out here. AC is a big one, obviously, because it gets hot. So landscaping is expensive here.
Yeah, we noticed that as well. We had to redo the landscaping in our place. It is expensive. And then the pine straw, which it looks beautiful. It does deteriorate rather fast. So you've got to get that done a couple times a year as well, which isn't overly expensive. But the good news is you don't have to mow, which is great. So,
and it's difficult to keep grass alive in Florida. It's, it's really hot, obviously. So if you can, like one of our properties that has a yard, the other two don't. It's like sandy or a condo. But the one that has a yard, we just got rid of all the grass and it's like a rock, like a hardscape, I guess it's called, because it's just too hard to keep grass alive and you don't want to deal with sprinklers coming on with guests and then they unplug things. And it was just easier to do it that way. So I recommend not having grass if you've got a fenced in property with a yard. Just make it like a cool rock landscape. That's worked really well for us.
For sure. The weeds grow like 10 months a year down here. So you don't want to have to pay somebody to come cut your weeds every month.
Yeah.
Pest control is important here. People freak out when there's a roach or even a lizard. I had somebody ask me,
I love the lizards.
Is there some kind of infestation? And I was like, no, they just live here. They're lizards. They're not a pest. But you don't want to see a roach because people freak out about that. And whether or not it's outside or whatever. I mean, there's some Florida wildlife you have to deal with, but you don't want things in your house. So pest control, I do it at least twice a year.
Yeah, we do monthly.
Monthly.
Yep.
Monthly.
Yep. Catch up, Jan. I think the lizards are cute. It's kind of like reminds me like when you go to Mexico and there's the big iguanas everywhere. We have these little tiny lizards.
Yeah.
And they're much cuter. And all right, so let's talk about property taxes and insurance. So this is the thing that is kind of the elephant in the room, is the insurance when it comes to Florida. So insurance is high here for obvious reasons. It's higher than normal right now because a lot of insurance companies dropped last year after the hurricane or right before, actually. I can't remember. It was hurricane related. I don't remember which hurricane it was. Jan, do you remember?
Well, Hurricane Michael was in 2018 and something like 76% of all insurance claims in Florida last year or year before had an attorney attached to them. So that means everybody got a much bigger payout than you would have if you were just single person fighting with your insurance company. And for that reason, that's why a lot of companies are bankrupt or have left the state. I mean, routinely they leave the state for sometimes refill their coffers in other places and they'll come back after a couple of years. But right now we've had several in receivership and it's because there have been several hurricanes with public adjusters who fight for you, but then you end up paying more later.
Yeah. So it goes up and then it goes back down again after a few years. So we're in one of those up periods right now. But I think the governor's involved now with getting some back in here so that they're not exorbitant anymore. Yeah, but insurance definitely
limited the amount that people can sue for or have, what you can sue for, how you can just file suits and have it be very litigious from the beginning. So there's been some curbing on that, but I don't think that's necessarily going to immediately translate into lower rates, but not something that's happened. And of course, insurance is highly dependent on the age of the property and the age of the systems. I mean, one of my clients wanted to buy a townhome the other day that was awesome, but the roof is 34 years old. It's original tile roof. And even though it might be good for 50, the insurance says, no, it's older than 30. So we're not going to write a policy on that. So the owners have to fix the roof before they can sell the property, because unless you're paying cash, and even then, nobody can, you can't get a decent insurance policy on super old roofs or systems.
Yeah, and I think they've got a bill in front of the legislature down there where they're going to stop people from being able to assign claims. And if they also I think they're going to stop attorney fees as part of it, which will get insurers back in, because if somebody was getting $1 claim, they were getting $500,000 for attorney fees, and the attorneys were the ones making out like bandits on those claims. So that will reduce costs for the insurance companies as well. So hopefully they'll be coming back into Florida.
And after the
attorney, by the way,
in 2018, a lot of people who had water and not necessarily flooding, but just water and mold damage and stuff, you call your insurance people, or these companies would come through town and they'd say, oh, we can do mold remediation. And they'll go in and cut out sheetrock and put their fans. And you think, oh, great, they're handling something for me. But what they're doing is they're giving your insurance company a $30,000 stupid, outrageous bill that they're going to get paid because it's emergency service, and now you've got holes in your sheetrock and you're out a bunch of money that you didn't know, or that's counted against you. But that's an extreme situation. I don't want to act like hurricanes are the norm. I mean,
they don't. Yeah, hurricanes are not the norm. And I think that's a lot of people overlook Florida and like, or coastal areas in general, because they don't want to deal with hurricanes, but it's really like a very small percentage of the time. And you're not always going to be affected every time there's a hurricane in the Gulf. It's not always coming directly to this area. You know, they go different places.
And every market has something, right? You've got fires or you've got earthquakes. I mean, everything's got something you got to deal with. But if you have insurance, as Brandon Turner has said, it's just a project. And then now, you know, you manage it like a project. If you've got money to deal with it, it's not that much of an emergency as it is a project.
Yeah, when we looked, it was, to your point, Jan, it was the roof. So how new is it? What type of material is it? And then as well, what flood zone is the home in? And we searched and then priced out the insurance for quite some time before we landed on the right one. The flood component was a huge difference.
Yes, and if the owner has a federal flood insurance policy, most of the time it's transferable to you at the same rate. So, and it's much cheaper if they transfer it than you try to go get a new policy or a private policy.
Yeah, we get a lot of people that have never been here or spent much time here worried about hurricanes. And I've lived here my entire life, and I've been through what I would consider 2 serious hurricanes. And everybody's definition is going to be different of that. But like Hurricane Michael, you know, it hit Panama City hard. We didn't get much damage at all over here. The hurricane that just hit Tampa, the Orlando market last year, I don't think we got any rain from it. So people don't really realize how big Florida is. And but insurance, I mean, you're going to have to factor in. I mean, just kind of point blank, it's going to be expensive. I normally tell people about 1.5% of the purchase price is kind of an average that I've seen, but there's a lot of variation in that. I think the roof is, like Jan said, is probably one of the biggest things. But you know, you can spend that, like you said, your client, the owner, was going to have to replace the roof. So hey, you get a brand new roof in the purchase, of course, if they'll agree to it. But, you know, there's some positive aspects to it, too.
And one thing I would say is, you know, even if you're buying not in a flood zone, you're going to want to buy flood insurance because it won't be escrowed if you're buying, depending on what type of mortgage you're getting or anything, but you're going to come out of pocket for the flood insurance just to protect yourself. So I've got one that's not in a flood zone, but I buy extra flood insurance just to make sure I'm covered if the water comes in first. But that's the way the insurance works. If the water comes in first, it's not wind damage. They're not paying for the damage to the property. So I want to be covered both ways.
Oh, good to know. Good tip. Good tip. All right, now let's talk about property taxes. So while Florida is not super high on the list by state of high property taxes, it is a lot higher than other markets that the short-term shop operates in. I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the Florida property tax rate is like 0.98%, I believe. So less than 1% of the assessed value. But, you know, if you're buying a really high dollar property, that can be, you know, significantly, that can be a good chunk of money. So keep that in mind.
So one of the mistakes people make when they're analyzing numbers is they look at last year's taxes on the MLS and you're like, okay, that's a whole different basis than what you're buying this property at. So you can't use that number. So they, you know, I teach them how to go to the property appraiser website and use the tax estimator. And that's a very conservative number that you're going to get on the tax estimator because you don't, you know, it's not, you don't, you know, anyway, it's just an estimate, but definitely get that estimate. Don't assume that somebody who bought this property 20 years ago and paid $500 a year in taxes last year is what you're going to pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the assessor, when you buy, it's going to change their basis to what the new price was that's on the contract.
That's right.
It's going to double maybe.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. And let's talk about state sales tax and local occupancy tax, if any, that you're having to pay on your rentals. Who wants to start?
I was going to say Bay County, you know, it's 6% for the state, 5% for Bay County. They got a 1% lodge tax, and I think they're talking about another 1%. But that's all taken care of through my lodge tax and transferred onto the guests. So it really doesn't come through my pocket.
Yeah, the city of Panama City just added that 1% merchant fee. City of Panama City Beach has had it for a long time, but in Panama City, it did not apply to short-term rentals, and now it does. And so that we're just getting equivalent with Panama City Beach is what I'm saying. They're both in Bay County, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we're 4% in Walton County and we're 5% in Okaloosa County, which is Destin. Walton County, guys, is Miramar Beach and 30A. And then state sales tax. What's the sales tax in Florida? I don't even know. Pay attention.
7%.
7.5. Yeah.
Okay. And again, we use my lodge tax, so we don't ever pay attention to calculating all that. It's just done for us. Definitely, and get Avalera my lodge tax, guys. It's so much easier than trying to just calculate all that and remit it yourselves. Anything else related to taxes that you guys want to hit on before we move on? All right, good deal. So last thing that I want to hit on before we close out is added amenities and their costs. So what I mean by that are some people will provide bicycles, some people will provide paddle boards, some people provide golf carts. So any of those things, do you guys do any extra amenities?
No, that's an extra liability for me that I don't want.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that I wanted to make too. So in one of our houses, we do rent them bikes, but they are not our bikes. So the way we shift some of that liability is instead of us buying the bikes and saying, here, use our bikes, there's a company that delivers the bikes and they'll stay there all year. But if the bike has a flat tire or needs something, then they're calling the number on the bike. They're not calling me. And then it's the company's bike that they had a wreck on and that they want to sue and not my bike. So, again, I'm sure there's some kind of way somebody could be litigious about that, but the same thing with golf carts. So I would prefer, we don't do it with golf carts because we don't really have a need for it, but there are some properties that are just a little too far for people to want to walk, and people love golf carting around here. Mm-hmm. So it's really fun to just, go half a mile down the road on the golf cart to eat dinner or whatever. So there are companies who you can call them and let them know when the guest is coming, and they'll come drop the golf cart off and pick it up when they're done. So we put it on the guests and say, if you want these things, again, we don't allow golf carts, but if we did, we would say, here's the company. It would be in our guidebook. Call them. They'll deliver it. They'll pick it up when you leave. Nothing to it. So I would recommend doing that rather than going and buying a golf cart. Paddle boards. Typically, I think a lot of people think that paddle boards are a lot lighter than they actually are. They're not surfboards. So what you're going to find is that people probably aren't going to drag them to the beach, but they probably are going to let their kids play around with them in the backyard and on the hard ground and scratch them up. So I mean, it can be a good amenity, but I think it's just something that's more maintenance than I would really want to deal with. We do provide beach wagons and ice chests, and then a few umbrellas and chairs and beach towels that are separate from our actual towels. So we do that stuff. Anybody else do anything crazy? We don't get too crazy because it just adds too many things to break and mess up your system.
No, just like you mentioned, I mean, we've got beach chairs, towels, and we do recommend specific companies that rent the golf carts as mentioned. So that's it.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else? So I think we've hit on everything that I had that I wanted to make sure was mentioned. Anything else you guys think that our listeners could benefit from hearing about this market?
Well, I was just going to say, I think we didn't talk anything about furniture you're going to have to replace because
let's talk about that.
I mean, you're going to have to replace a couch every, 2 to 3 years, maybe, depending on what kind of wear and tear it's getting on it. Mattresses, just think about that.
Clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of furnishing, I would say a good 90% of the properties in this market will come fully furnished. So you probably won't have to budget a huge line item for furniture expenses. My rule of thumb that I use for furnishing a starting from scratch house is $10,000 per bedroom, but that also includes the common areas like kitchen and living room. So for example, a 3 bedrooms, $30,000, a 5 bedrooms, $50,000. But when you're buying a fully furnished property, I would budget $2,000 to $5,000 on replacing things that you don't like or that were grandma or that are out of date, just things that are worn out that you might want to change. I recommend budgeting 2,000 to 5,000 for that. You may not need it. But I think something that's important to remember when you're buying furnished properties is there's no such thing as truly turnkey. I hate that word because it's so subjective. It means different things to different people. Like I've had brand new constructions that come fully furnished with a very well-stocked kitchen, and the clients are mad because the deck wasn't stained, because treated wood, you have to let sit out for several months before you can stain it. And they're like, well, I was told this would be turnkey. I'm like, well, do you want to wait to close another 6 months so they can stain this deck for you? So, again, everybody has a different idea of what the word turnkey means. So just assume that nothing is turnkey is the way to never be disappointed. And just know you're going to have to go in, even on a brand new construction, and tweak some things. So keep that in mind.
You need less furniture than people think you do. I see a lot of properties day in and day out. And, I want a nightstand on both sides of my bed, but I don't need a dresser and necessarily a chair and an ottoman and whatever. I don't need all that furniture. And yesterday I was in a condo where there were in the 2-bedroom condo, there were 3 giant armoires with the TVs in them. I mean, we're talking about the TV that can hang on the wall. They just kept the armoire from 1985. In one bedroom, you had to scoot between the bed and the armoire. I'm like, people, hang this on the wall and get rid of this giant piece of furniture that nobody's using.
Right.
And don't think about it like you're furnishing your own house. People don't want to see the modern look. They want to see those bright blues and bright colors. Whenever, at least in my market, I've seen a lot more higher revenue come out of some stuff you definitely wouldn't put in your own house.
Yeah. Over in this market, I see a lot of all white everything. I think that's coming from the whole Alice Beach thing. But then, in the Emerald Coast, I see in Destin and 30A, a lot of all white. But then if you move over to the Forgotten Coast, I see a lot more bright colors and more fun stuff. So I agree with you. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And for those listeners who want to buy something with us in the Forgotten Coast or Emerald Coast, email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com. If you have more questions, lots of ways you can get us. The main 2 ways would be joining our Facebook group called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, or we have an office hours open Zoom every Thursday. You can sign up for that at strquestions.com. Thanks, guys.